Imagine standing at the edge of time itself, peering back through 4 millennia to witness one of history's greatest mysteries unfolding. This is the story of a civilization so advanced, so sophisticated, that when archaeologists first uncovered their cities, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Welcome to the incredible saga of the Indus Valley civilization, a tale of human ingenuity, environmental triumph, mysterious scripts, and a puzzle that continues to baffle scientists today. Our story begins not with kings or conquests, but with a simple discovery that would change everything. Picture this. It's 1856, and British engineers are frantically building railways across colonial India. They need ballast, lots of it, for their train tracks. Local contractors have been quarrying what they think are ordinary bricks from ancient mounds near a village called Harappa. But these aren't ordinary bricks at all. They're perfectly uniform, incredibly hard, and unlike anything being made in the 19th century. Someone, somewhere, sometime long ago, had mastered the art of brickmaking to an extraordinary degree. Fast forward to the 1920s, when archaeologist Sir John Marshall decides to investigate these mysterious mounds properly. What his team uncovers will rewrite the history books forever. They don't just find a city. They find evidence of an entire civilization that had been lost to time for over 3,000 years. But let's start at the real beginning, shall we? 7,000 years ago, in the windswept hills of what is now Pakistan, something remarkable was happening. At a place called Murgar, small communities of people were making one of humanity's greatest discoveries, agriculture. But this wasn't just learning to grow plants. These ancient farmers were conducting their own agricultural revolution, domesticating wheat and barley varieties that were perfectly suited to their local environment. They weren't copying techniques from Mesopotamia or anywhere else. They were inventing farming from scratch. These early settlements tell us an incredible story. Excavations reveal houses with built-in storage compartments. These people weren't just thinking about their next meal, they were planning for the future. The floors of their homes, made from packed earth mixed with chaff, still bear the marks of daily life from 7,000 years ago. Imagine kneeling down and touching the same hearthstones where families gathered for warmth and cooking all those millennia ago. But here's where the story gets really exciting. Around 3500 BC, something extraordinary started happening. These simple farming villages began transforming into something the world had never seen before. Trade networks exploded across the landscape like a vast spider web. Lapis lazuli, that stunning deep blue stone, traveled from the mountains of Afghanistan to settlements throughout the region. Shells from the Arabian Sea journeyed hundreds of kilometers inland. This wasn't random bartering. This was sophisticated, organized commerce. The people developed standardized weights and measures with mathematical precision that would make modern engineers proud. Stone cubes found at sites hundreds of kilometers apart are so uniform that they vary by less than 1%. Think about that. Without modern manufacturing, without computers, without any of our technology, they achieved a level of standardization that we struggle to match today. Then comes the moment that changes everything. Around 2600 BC, in what can only be described as an urban revolution, scattered settlements suddenly exploded into massive, meticulously planned cities. This wasn't gradual development. This was civilization hitting the fast-forward button. Enter Harappa, the city that would give its name to an entire civilization. This wasn't just big. It was enormous, covering over 150 hectares with a population that may have reached 80,000 people. But size wasn't what made it special. It was the planning. Imagine flying over ancient Harappa in a helicopter. You'd see a perfectly organized grid system with streets running exactly north-south and east-west. The main thoroughfares were 10 meters wide, broad enough for multiple ox carts to pass comfortably. Secondary streets measured exactly 5 meters, while narrow lanes were precisely 2 meters across. This level of urban planning wouldn't be seen again until the Roman Empire, over 2,000 years later. But the Harappans were just getting started. 600 kilometers away, another urban marvel was rising from the Indus Valley floor, Mohenjo-daro, the mound of the dead. If Harappa was impressive, Mohenjo-daro was simply breathtaking. Picture a city of 40,000 people living in what was essentially an ancient Manhattan, complete with multi-story buildings, wide boulevards, and public facilities that would be impressive even today. At the heart of Mohenjo-daro sat one of archaeology's most famous structures, the Great Bath. This wasn't just a swimming pool. It was a marvel of ancient engineering. Measuring 12 by 7 meters and nearly 2.5 meters deep, it was constructed with precisely fitted bricks and sealed with bitumen to prevent any leakage. Steps at both ends allowed dignified entry and exit, while a sophisticated drainage system could fill and empty the entire pool. But what was it for? Religious ceremonies? Public bathing? Community gatherings? The mystery adds to the intrigue. Adjacent to the Great Bath stood something equally impressive, a granary complex that could store enough grain to feed thousands of people for months. This wasn't just storage, it was sophisticated logistics. Ventilation channels prevented spoilage, loading platforms facilitated heavy grain movement, and the entire system spoke of centralized planning that could make modern supply chain managers weep with envy. But perhaps the most incredible feature of these cities was something most visitors would barely notice: the drainage system. Every single house in Mohenjo-daro connected to a comprehensive sewage network. Covered brick drains ran beneath every street, maintaining perfect gradients to ensure proper flow. Manholes allowed maintenance access, while settling tanks removed solid waste. This wasn't primitive plumbing. This was urban sanitation that wouldn't be matched anywhere in the world for nearly 2 millennia. Walk through a reconstructed Harapan house, and you'll be amazed by the sophistication. Most homes featured blank exterior walls facing the street. No windows, no doors, providing complete privacy from the dust, noise, and heat outside. Instead, all rooms opened onto interior courtyards that served as private family spaces. These weren't just houses. They were carefully designed living systems that addressed climate, privacy, and comfort with remarkable ingenuity. The standardization was mind-blowing. Bricks throughout the entire civilization followed the same precise ratio: 4 units long, 2 units wide, 1 unit thick. Whether you were in Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, or any of the hundreds of other sites, the bricks were identical. This level of quality control across such vast distances suggests either incredible administrative coordination or standardized technical knowledge that was religiously maintained. At Dhalavira, built in one of Gujarat's most arid regions, Harapan engineers faced their ultimate challenge: creating a thriving city where water was scarce. Their solution was brilliant. They constructed 16 massive reservoirs, some carved directly from rock, others built with precisely fitted stone walls. The largest measured over 70 meters long and could store millions of liters of precious monsoon water. The engineering was so sophisticated that it included spillways, sluice gates, and distribution channels that managed water flow throughout the dry season. Now, let's talk about daily life in these ancient cities. Imagine waking up in Harapan, Mohenjo-daro, 4,000 years ago. The sun hasn't risen yet. Families wake before dawn to avoid the crushing heat. Your first task is drawing water from your private well using standardized pottery vessels designed to keep water cool through evaporation. Breakfast might be wheat cakes or barley porridge cooked on terracotta griddles over carefully tended fires. Children played with toys that would be familiar to kids today: miniature carts with wheels that actually turned, animal figurines, whistles shaped like birds. These weren't crude toys. They were precisely crafted with moving parts and careful attention to detail. Board games with geometric patterns brought families together during leisure hours, their rules lost to time, but their presence speaking to the universal human need for play and competition. The people loved jewelry and personal adornment. Archaeological finds reveal gold and silver bangles, necklaces made from precisely drilled carnelian and agate beads, shell ornaments, and polished bronze mirrors. The technical skill required to drill perfectly round holes through stones harder than steel, using only bronze tools and bow-driven mechanisms, represents craftsmanship that took years to master. Yet these beautiful objects weren't restricted to the wealthy. Even modest homes contained decorative items, suggesting a society where beauty was accessible to all social levels. But perhaps the most tantalizing mystery of Harapan civilization lies in their writing system. Thousands of artifacts throughout their territory bear inscriptions, brief sequences of symbols arranged in horizontal lines. These appear on seals, pottery, copper tablets, ivory rods, and bronze implements. After nearly a century of intense study, This script remains completely undeciphered, making it one of archaeology's greatest unsolved puzzles. The symbols themselves are fascinating. Statistical analysis reveals about 400 distinct characters, too many for a simple alphabet, too few for a purely logographic system like Chinese. The most frequent symbol, appearing in roughly 15% of all inscriptions, resembles a vertical stroke with horizontal lines and often appears at the beginning of sequences. Could it be a classifier indicating the type of information that follows? Harapan seals are works of art in themselves, typically measuring just 2 to 3 centimeters square and carved from steatite. They feature intricate designs combining script symbols with animal motifs. The most common animal is the mysterious unicorn, depicted on nearly 60% of all seals. Was this a mythical creature, or perhaps a stylized representation of a real animal like the aurochs or rhinoceros? Other seals show elephants, tigers, and water buffalo, all rendered with remarkable artistic skill and consistent iconographic conventions. These seals weren't just decorative, they were the business cards and identification documents of their time. Identical seals found at sites hundreds of kilometers apart suggest either direct administrative control or standardized commercial practices that transcended local boundaries. Clay seal impressions found at trading sites show they were pressed into clay ceilings that secured containers during transport, providing tamper-evident security for valuable goods. The economic foundation supporting all this sophistication was unlike anything the ancient world had seen. By 2500 BC, Harappan cities had become nodes in a vast commercial network stretching from Afghanistan's lapis lazuli mines to Gujarat's pearl beds. At Lathal, archaeologists discovered what may be the world's oldest known dock, a rectangular basin constructed with fired bricks and featuring a sophisticated lock system allowing ships to enter at high tide and remain safely harbored when water levels dropped. Harappan merchants weren't just local traders, they were international businessmen. At Shorchagai in northern Afghanistan, near lapis lazuli sources, excavators found a complete Harappan settlement featuring characteristic urban planning and typical artifacts. This wasn't a trading post, this was a colony, demonstrating how far Harappan commercial influence extended. Mesopotamian texts from this period refer to a land called Mala, almost certainly the Indus Valley, describing it as a source of exotic goods including ivory, precious stones, gold, and cotton textiles. Harappan carnelian beads found in elite Mesopotamian burials dating to 2500 BC prove that Indus Valley products had achieved luxury status in international markets. The technical quality of these beads, with their perfectly drilled holes and lustrous surfaces, commanded premium prices in foreign markets. Manufacturing reached extraordinary levels of sophistication. At Chanhudaro, excavations revealed workshops producing thousands of finished beads using techniques that required years of training. Craftsmen had mastered drilling perfectly cylindrical holes through stones as hard as 7 on the Mohs scale, stones that can scratch steel, using bronze-tipped drills rotated by bow-driven mechanisms. The precision achieved was extraordinary. Holes barely 1 millimeter in diameter maintained consistent width and perfect straightness through beads several centimeters long. Bronze working advanced beyond simple tools to include complex artistic pieces like the famous dancing girl figurine from Mohenjo-daro. This remarkable sculpture, barely 10 centimeters tall, depicts a young woman with one hand on her hip, wearing bangles on her other arm. The confident pose and elaborate jewelry suggest high social status, while the technical mastery required for lost wax casting demonstrates sophisticated metallurgical skills. Cotton cultivation and textile production may have been one of Harappa's greatest innovations. Evidence suggests the Indus Valley was among the world's first regions to cultivate and process cotton into textiles, an innovation with enormous economic implications. Though textiles rarely survive in archaeological contexts, the presence of standardized spindle whorls and dyeing vats indicates large-scale cloth production that may have been a major export commodity. But this remarkable civilization faced its greatest challenge around 2200 BC when environmental conditions began shifting dramatically. Paleoclimatic evidence indicates that stable monsoon patterns supporting Harappan agriculture began experiencing significant variations. Marine sediment cores from the Arabian Sea show increasing levels of wind-blown terrestrial material, suggesting reduced monsoon intensity and shorter rainy seasons. Even more catastrophically, the massive Ghaggar-Hakra River system began dying. This enormous river, fed by Himalayan glacial melt and seasonal monsoons, had supported dozens of urban centers across what is now desert. Satellite imagery reveals the ghost of this ancient river system, paleochannels extending over 1,000 kilometers from the Himalayan foothills to the Arabian Sea coast. As this river system dried up, entire regions became uninhabitable. Archaeological evidence shows how communities responded with remarkable resilience and innovation. At Dhalavira, water conservation measures were continuously expanded and improved. At Mohenjo-daro, wells were deepened as water tables dropped. Agricultural practices shifted to include drought-resistant crops like millets and sorghum requiring less water than traditional wheat and barley. Settlement patterns changed as people relocated to areas with more reliable water sources. The Gujarat coast saw increased population as communities moved from increasingly arid interior regions. Trade patterns shifted as inland production centers declined and coastal settlements gained importance. This wasn't chaotic collapse, it was organized adaptation to changing conditions. Around 1900 BC, the great urban centers began their final transformation. This wasn't sudden destruction, but gradual change occurring over centuries. At Harappa, excavation levels show the carefully planned street grids giving way to more haphazard construction. Houses reused bricks from earlier structures, suggesting either resource scarcity or the breakdown of centralized material production. But transformation doesn't mean ending. Regional variations show how different areas adapted to changing conditions. Gujarat communities maintained sophisticated water management and continued long-distance trade, though at reduced scales. The Punjab region saw major centers abandoned while new settlements appeared in previously marginal locations. Eastern regions maintained greater cultural continuity despite environmental challenges. The legacy of Harappan civilization persisted in ways that influenced South Asian development for millennia. Hydraulic engineering principles developed by Harappan engineers influenced urban development throughout the subcontinent. The binary and decimal weight systems established precedents for systematic commercial measurement. Urban planning concepts provided models for organized city development. Craft production techniques contributed to technological traditions that persisted throughout South Asian history. Agricultural innovations, including crop rotation systems, irrigation techniques, and soil management methods, provided foundations for farming traditions that sustained South Asian populations through subsequent periods. Cotton cultivation and textile production established manufacturing traditions that eventually made South Asian textiles globally significant commodities. Religious and ritual practices may have influenced later South Asian traditions, though establishing direct connections remains challenging without decipherable texts. The emphasis on ritual bathing evident in archaeological sites appears to have contributed to purification practices central to later religious systems. Fire altars and offering practices suggest ritual traditions that may have influenced later Vedic religion. The rediscovery of this lost civilization reads like an adventure novel. After railway engineers unknowingly used ancient Harappan bricks as ballast, Alexander Cunningham conducted the first archaeological investigations in the 1870s. But it was Sir John Marshall's systematic excavations in the 1920s that revealed the true extent and sophistication of Indus Valley civilization. On September 20th, 1924, exactly 100 years ago from this year, Marshall announced the discovery to the world, revolutionizing understanding of South Asian history. The discovery demonstrated that South Asia had supported advanced urban civilizations millennia before historically documented periods, challenging existing narratives about the development of human civilization. Post-independence research in India and Pakistan dramatically expanded knowledge through discovering hundreds of new sites and applying advanced analytical techniques. Satellite imagery revolutionized research by revealing ancient settlement patterns across vast areas. Ground-penetrating radar and magnetometry provided insights into buried structures without destructive excavation. Modern techniques continue revealing new secrets. DNA analysis of skeletal remains provides insights into population genetics and migration patterns. Climate reconstruction confirms significant environmental changes during the late Harappan period. Computer-assisted analysis of the undeciphered script identifies statistical patterns suggesting linguistic features, though complete decipherment remains elusive. Recent computational approaches have applied machine learning algorithms to analyze the script's properties, consistently classifying Indus inscriptions as more similar to writing systems than decorative patterns. Statistical analysis reveals that the script was multidirectional, with some inscriptions reading right to left and others showing boustrophédon writing where alternate lines change direction. Contemporary significance extends far beyond academic research. In India and Pakistan, Harappan sites serve as symbols of ancient achievement and national pride. The sophisticated urban planning and technological innovations provide models for sustainable development and environmental management relevant to modern challenges. Heritage preservation efforts continue protecting these irreplaceable archaeological treasures for future generations. Educational programs and museum exhibitions introduce Harappan achievements to broader audiences, while international collaboration advances research through shared expertise and resources. The mystery of the undeciphered script continues attracting researchers from fields ranging from linguistics to computer science, all seeking to unlock the voices of this ancient civilization. Today, as we face our own environmental challenges and urban planning problems, the Harappan example offers both inspiration and practical lessons. Their achievements in water management, sustainable urban development, and international commerce demonstrate human capacity for innovation and adaptation. Their emphasis on standardization, quality control, and systematic planning provides models for addressing contemporary challenges. The story of the Indus Valley civilization reminds us that human ingenuity has deep roots and that solutions to modern problems might be found by looking backward as well as forward. From simple farming villages to sophisticated urban centers, from local trade to international commerce, from environmental adaptation to technological innovation, the Harappans created a legacy that continues inspiring and instructing us today. As archaeological techniques advance and new discoveries emerge, our understanding of this remarkable civilization continues evolving. Each excavation, each analytical breakthrough, each new technological application brings us closer to understanding not just what the Harappans achieved, but how they thought, what they valued, and what lessons they might teach us about creating sustainable, prosperous, and resilient societies. The mystery endures, the discoveries continue, and the story of the Indus Valley civilization, one of humanity's greatest achievements, keeps unfolding before our amazed eyes, reminding us that the past still has secrets to reveal and wisdom to share.